Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Clarensau, and here as we wind down this semester, I want to talk to you about success and how to achieve the very best kind. And to do that, we're going to take a look at a great story recorded for us in Nehemiah chapter 6. Now, before we do that, understand the Bible's not a success book, though some come searching for those kind of things in its pages. I've seen such things as Jesus' wisdom for CEOs or ideas about God's way to get what you want. And we've all seen how easily some try to mix modern leadership ideas with Christ's teaching. But there are moments in these pages that can offer insight into finding success or reaching your goals in the things you set out to do. In Nehemiah chapter 6, we find a story that describes, well, it's a project quite different than what you or I might undertake. Trying to rebuild the walls of a city has never been on my to-do list and probably not on yours either. But while the task is different, there are some principles here that are very applicable to your life and to mine. If you know the story, Nehemiah is leading the effort to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem after the destruction brought by the Babylonians. These walls, a key strategic defense for this former capital city, lie in ruins. Nehemiah had returned with other exiles, heartbroken by the city's condition and determined to do something about it. I want you to see 4 principles from this, from his then and there, that can travel the centuries and really help us in our here and now. The first of these is, if you're going to make a lasting difference, choose a great work. Real success depends on choosing a great work. That's what Nehemiah says in verse 3. He says, I'm doing a great work. The first step to meaningful success comes from the value of what you're attempting. Our culture might sometimes define such a work as pleasing yourself or making yourself happy, but great works are defined as those that benefit others. Nehemiah chose to sacrifice for others, and his great work would matter long after he was gone. Every day we are surrounded by the opportunity to do great works too. When we invest in someone else, we do a great work. Being a great student, a great parent, a great husband or wife is a great work. Investing in God's eternal purposes is a great work. You see, some folks never achieve lasting success or happiness because their efforts aren't focused on great works. Secondly, in verses 8 and 9, we see Nehemiah understood his enemy. Now, this may have been his greatest strength. Not only had he chosen a great work, but he was ready for resistance. Great works aren't easy. If they were, everyone would do them. Satan, God's enemy, he's not very creative, but he is determined. He really only has a handful of strategies, and he tries to stop great works by using those with different agendas. That's what happens in this story. What does God's enemy bring? Distractions. I can promise you that when you aim to make a meaningful difference, Satan will seek to distract you by getting you to pause your efforts and deal with whatever distraction he can manufacture. He will attack your great work with friends whose agendas differ, or with those who talk like they want to help but don't really share your same motives or heart for what you're doing. Commit to being a great dad, and a friend will want you to serve yourself. Commit to being a great student, and Satan is going to find a way to get you off task. This is what he does. Expect it. Nehemiah was onto that strategy, and he refused to come down from his work. He knew that he didn't have to swat every fly that buzzed around. In fact, he knew that if he tried, he would never be able to give his best to what mattered most. Thirdly, remember God is working with you. This is what we see in verses 9 and 14. Nehemiah didn't stop, but he also didn't think he was working alone. And we all know that God is with us, but I'm not sure we all realize why. You see, God is not with us just to watch what we're doing. He's certainly not in the room just to judge your success or even your motives. He's with you to help you, to work with you, to be a part of what is really His plan. Remember that He has chosen to be Emmanuel, God with us, and this is the reason why that He gives us bigger assignments than we can manage, because God wants to participate with us, so He steers us to dreams that require His help. Nehemiah let God handle these distractors, and when he did, he trusted God to solve what he couldn't. And truth is, God's going to handle those guys a whole lot better anyway. You see, we're not in these challenges by ourselves. When we are spending ourselves for others, well, God rolls up His sleeves alongside us as well. And finally, be sure to celebrate when you succeed. The last few verses of this passage, verses 15 and 16, tell us about this. I got to tell you, Nehemiah's task had been overwhelming. The beginning of the book describes how distraught he had been when he'd seen the condition of the city walls, and there was nothing easy about the work that needed to be done. It would take the resources of an entire empire and every bit of Nehemiah's ability, and a whole lot more. But somehow, this task is completed in just 52 days. Even the enemies recognized that God must have brought this victory. Sometimes we get so caught up in the next thing on the list that we miss the joy of our victories. Or sometimes we forget to be thankful and we lose track of those who've been there to help us. For Nehemiah, the city would now be more secure. The confidence of the people would rise. I mean, this was a great moment, one that he wisely took time to celebrate. Nehemiah made a difference, and all of history would know it. He succeeded in a work that mattered, and centuries later, we can learn from his efforts. Whatever God's placed before you, remember Nehemiah's path. If God's presented you with a challenge, then you've chosen a great work. Remember that God's enemy wants to distract you in order to stop you. Invite God to be an active part of what you're doing and let Him remove the barriers. And finally, don't forget to celebrate when the project is complete. That rejoicing will stir your faith for what's ahead, and your success will raise the hopes of those who are around you. So let me encourage you today. Begin this day in a time of prayer and embrace the challenges that lie before you. Ask for God to strengthen you for those tasks. Enjoy every minute and know that on this journey with your Creator, you never walk alone. I'm Dr. Mike. Have a great day.